Are you lost too, mister? 'Cause I am, said the little girl to a millionaire CEO at the airport. Are you lost too, mister? Because I am. The words came out small, almost swallowed by the noise around her, but somehow they still managed to reach him. At that moment, Liam Carter had been checking his watch, irritated at the delay flashing on the departure board. His assistant had already rescheduled 2 meetings. His phone buzzed again in his coat pocket. Another email, another demand, another reminder that his time was never really his own. But then he heard her. He looked down. A little girl stood in front of him, no older than 6, her pink backpack hanging unevenly from one shoulder, as if it had been packed in a hurry. Her hair was slightly messy, curls falling into her eyes, and her small fingers were twisted together nervously, like she was trying to hold herself from falling apart. Her eyes, though her eyes were what stopped him. They were wide, uncertain, and filled with a kind of quiet fear that didn't scream for attention but still demanded it. For a second, Liam didn't respond. Not because he didn't hear her, but because something about the question unsettled him more than he expected. Are you lost too? It wasn't just a child asking for help. It felt like something deeper, something uncomfortably close to truth. He blinked, then crouched down to her level, his expensive coat brushing against the polished airport floor. No, he said gently, softening his voice in a way he hadn't done in years. I'm not lost. He paused, studying her face more carefully now. But it looks like you might be. The girl nodded slowly, her lower lip trembling just slightly, like she was trying very hard not to cry. I can't find my mommy, she whispered. Something in Liam's chest tightened. He had seen panic before, in boardrooms, in negotiations, in moments where millions were at stake. But this was different. This was pure, unfiltered. And strangely enough, it made everything else around him feel meaningless. What's your name? He asked. Ella, he said, offering a small reassuring smile. I'm Liam. She looked at his hand when he extended it, hesitating for just a moment before placing her tiny fingers into his. They were cold, fragile, and trusting in a way that made him feel an unexpected sense of responsibility. Don't worry, he said quietly. We're going to find your mom. The airport continued moving around them like nothing had changed. Announcements echoed overhead. People rushed past, dragging luggage, speaking into phones, living their busy lives. But for Liam, everything had slowed down, because suddenly, nothing seemed more important than the small hand in his. He stood up, gently guiding her beside him. Do you remember where you last saw her? He asked. Gate B7. Ella replied, her voice a little steadier now. But then there were too many people, and she disappeared. Liam nodded. Of course.
Crowds, chaos?
Distraction. The kind of environment he navigated easily, but for a child, it was overwhelming. Okay, he said calmly. First, we're going to tell the airport staff. They'll help us find her faster. Ella squeezed his hand tighter. Are you going to leave me? She asked suddenly. The question caught him off guard. No, he said immediately. I'm not going anywhere. And for the first time in a long time, he meant it without hesitation. They walked together toward the information desk, her small steps trying to match his longer stride. Without realizing it, Liam slowed down, adjusting himself to her pace. It was instinctive, unfamiliar, but it felt right. At the desk, he explained the situation quickly. The attendant's expression shifted from routine indifference to alert concern as she reached for her radio. Ella stayed close to him, pressing lightly against his side, as if he were the only stable thing in a world that suddenly felt too big. Is she going to find my mommy? Ella asked, looking up at him. She's going to try her best, Liam replied. And so are we. He guided her to a quieter seating area nearby. Sit here for a moment, okay? She climbed onto the chair, her legs swinging nervously as she watched people pass by. Liam studied her for a second, then turned toward a nearby cafe. When he returned, he placed a small apple juice and a chocolate muffin in front of her. Her eyes lit up instantly. You got this for me? She asked. Yeah, he said. Thought you might be hungry. She gave a tiny smile. Thank you. It was simple, innocent, and yet it hit him harder than any gratitude he had ever received in his professional life. He sat across from her, watching as she took careful bites, crumbs collecting near her fingers. "Do you always help people?" she asked suddenly. Liam leaned back slightly, surprised. "Not always," he admitted. "Why not?" He hesitated. "How do you explain priorities to a child? Deadlines, pressure, the constant chase for more?" "I guess I get busy," he said finally. Ella nodded as if she understood, even though she couldn't possibly. "My mommy gets busy too," she said. "But she still makes time for me." The words were soft, but they landed with unexpected weight. Liam didn't respond right away. Instead, he found himself looking at her more closely. At the way she spoke. At the quiet confidence she had in her mother. At the certainty in her voice when she said someone would come back for her. It was something he hadn't felt in a long time. "Certainty. Your mom sounds amazing," he said. "She is," Ella replied proudly. "She always finds me." Liam smiled faintly. "I believe you." Time passed slowly after that. Ella talked about small things, her school, her favorite cartoon, a cat she wanted but didn't have. Liam listened. Really listened. Not like he did in meetings, waiting for his turn to speak, but actually paying attention. And somewhere in the middle of it all, something shifted. The noise of the airport faded into the background. The pressure of his schedule loosened its grip, and for the first time in years he wasn't thinking about what came next. He was just present. Then the radio at the desk crackled. A name was announced. A description. A match. Liam stood immediately. "That's you," he said, offering his hand again. Ella jumped off the chair, grabbing it without hesitation. "I told you she'd find me," she said, smiling. He nodded. "You did." They walked back through the terminal together, and this time, Liam noticed something strange. He didn't want to let go. Not yet. Not when her small hand still trusted his. Not when something inside him, something long buried under years of ambition and distance, had just begun to wake up. As they turned the corner, Ella suddenly stopped. "There!" she shouted, and then she ran. Liam released her hand instinctively, watching as she sprinted toward a woman rushing through the crowd, her face pale with panic. "Mommy!" The reunion was immediate, overwhelming. The woman dropped to her knees, pulling Ella into her arms, holding her like she might disappear again if she loosened her grip even slightly. Liam stepped back, giving them space, but he couldn't look away, because something about the moment felt familiar, unsettling, like a memory trying to surface. The woman finally looked up. Their eyes met, and everything inside Liam stopped. His breath caught. His heart slammed against his chest. Because the face in front of him wasn't just a stranger. It was someone he had spent years trying to forget. "Maya," he whispered. And just like that, the past he thought he had left behind came rushing back, stronger than ever. Maya didn't respond immediately. For a moment, she just stared at him like she was trying to decide if he was real or just some cruel trick her mind was playing on her. The airport noise returned slowly, like a wave creeping back after being pulled away. Announcements echoed again. People brushed past them. A suitcase rolled loudly over the tiled floor nearby. But between them, everything felt still. "Liam," she finally said, his name barely leaving her lips, as if speaking it too loudly might shatter whatever this moment was. He swallowed. "Yeah, it's me." Ella looked up at both of them, confused, her small hand still clutching the front of her mother's coat. "Mommy, you know him?" she asked. Maya's eyes flickered down to her daughter, then back up to Liam. There was a storm behind them now. Shock, confusion, something deeper, something unfinished. "I knew him," she said slowly. Knew him. The words hit harder than they should have. Not know, not knowing. Knew. Past tense. Closed. Final. Liam felt something tighten in his chest, but he didn't let it show. "I didn't realize she was." He stopped himself, glancing at Ella. "She came up to me. She said she was lost." "I can see that," Maya replied, her voice steadier now, though her grip on Ella hadn't loosened. "And thank you for helping her." There was sincerity there, real gratitude. But it sat on top of something colder, something guarded. "You don't have to thank me," Lem said quietly. "Anyone would have done the same." Maya gave a faint, almost invisible shake of her head. No, she said. Not everyone would have stayed. The words lingered between them. Liam felt them more than he heard them. Ella, unaware of the tension building around her, tugged at Maya's sleeve. "Mummy, he bought me juice," she said proudly. "And a muffin. And he said we'd find you together." Maya's expression softened for a brief second as she looked down at her daughter. "Did he?" she asked gently. Ella nodded eagerly. "He didn't leave me." Liam looked away for a moment. "He didn't leave me. It shouldn't have meant anything. But it did. More than it should have." Maya stood up slowly, still holding Ella close. "We should go," she said after a moment, "or Gate might change again." It sounded like an excuse. Maybe it was. Liam nodded, though something inside him resisted the idea of this ending here, like this, so suddenly. "Yeah, of course," he said. There was a pause. An awkward one. The kind that didn't belong between strangers, but didn't quite know how to exist between people with a past. "I'm glad she's okay," Liam added. Maya nodded. "Me too." Another silence. Ella looked between them again, sensing something she didn't understand. "Are you coming with us?" she asked Liam innocently. Maya stiffened slightly. Liam hesitated. The easy answer was no. It should have been no. But something stopped him. He began, then glanced at Maya. "Only if it's okay." Maya didn't answer right away. Her eyes studied him, searching for something. Maybe the man she used to know. Maybe proof that he was still the same. Or maybe proof that he wasn't. Finally, she exhaled. "We're heading to Gate C12, she said. "You don't have to." "I'll walk with you," Liam said a little too quickly. She didn't argue. And that was answer enough. Ella smiled instantly, grabbing his hand again without hesitation. Maya noticed. Of course she did. And something in her expression shifted again, softer this time, but cautious. They started walking. This time it felt different. Not like before. Before it was simple. A man helping a lost child. Now it was complicated. Now every step carried history. The silence stretched as they moved through the terminal. Ella swung her arm between them happily, completely unaware of the emotional tension threading through the air. "You travel a lot?" Maya asked finally, her voice neutral. "Yeah," Liam replied. "Too much, probably." "Still chasing things?" she asked. There was a slight edge to it. He noticed. "Trying to," he said. Maya gave a small nod, like she expected that answer. "You always were good at that," she said. "Chasing." Liam let out a quiet breath. "And you were always good at staying," he replied. She didn't respond. They walked past a row of shops, the bright lights reflecting off the polished floors. People passed by them, laughing, arguing, talking, living lives that had nothing to do with the quiet storm building between these two. Ella suddenly pointed at a toy store. "Mommy, look! Unicorns!" Maya smiled faintly. "Not today, sweetheart." Ella pouted but didn't argue. Liam glanced at the store, then at Ella. "Maybe next time," he said casually. Maya's eyes flicked to him quickly. "Next time." The words hung there, unspoken, uncertain. Ella, however, brightened instantly. "Really?" Liam shrugged lightly. "Maybe." Maya didn't say anything, but her silence felt heavier now. They reached a quieter part of the terminal, where the crowds thinned out and the noise softened. Gate C12. "This is us," she said. Liam nodded slowly. "Right." Ella let go of his hand reluctantly. "Do you have to go now?" she asked. Liam crouched down to her level again. "Yeah, kiddo," he said gently. "I have a flight too." She looked disappointed. "But you said you wouldn't disappear," she said. The words hit harder this time. Liam felt it in his chest. "I didn't mean disappear like that," he said carefully. "I just mean I can't stay here." Ella thought about it, then nodded slowly, accepting it in the way children sometimes do. "Okay," she said. Then she leaned forward and hugged him. It caught him off guard. Completely. But after a second, he hugged her back. And for a moment, everything else faded again. When she pulled away, she smiled. "You're nice," she said. Liam chuckled softly. "Thanks, Ella." He stood up, facing Maya again. This was it. The moment where he should say goodbye. Walk away. Let the past stay where it belonged. But his feet didn't move. "Maya," he started. She looked at him, her expression guarded again. "What?" she asked. I didn't know, he said. About what? She replied. He hesitated, then glanced at Ella, then back at her. About her, he said quietly. Maya's jaw tightened. There's a lot you didn't know, she said. The words weren't loud, but they were sharp, honest. Liam nodded slowly. I guess I deserve that. She didn't deny it. A long pause followed, the kind that carried years of unspoken words. I'm not here to make things complicated, Liam said finally. I'm glad I could help. Maya studied him for a moment. Then she nodded. Thank you, she said again, this time softer. More real. Ella tugged at her hand. Mummy, can he come with us? She asked. Maya exhaled slowly. That's not how it works, sweetheart, she said gently. Why not? Maya glanced at Liam, then back at her daughter. Because sometimes people are just passing through. Liam felt that. Deep. But before he could respond, Ella spoke again. I don't think he's just passing, she said. Silence. Maya looked at her daughter, then at Liam. Something shifted again. Small, but noticeable. Take care of yourself, Liam, she said quietly. You too, he replied. He hesitated, then turned to leave. 1 step. 2, but then, Liam. He stopped, turned back. Maya was looking at him again. Different this time. Less guarded. More uncertain. We're here for another hour before boarding, she said. He didn't speak. Didn't move. We're not in a rush, she added. And just like that, the door that had been firmly closed wasn't completely shut anymore. Liam stood there for a moment, not moving, not speaking, just looking at her as if he wasn't sure he had heard her right. They're not in a rush. It was such a simple sentence, but coming from Maya, it carried weight. Years of distance, silence, and unanswered questions sat quietly behind those words. He walked back slowly, not with the confidence he once had, not with the certainty that used to define him, but with something unfamiliar. Caution. Hope. Maybe even fear. Ella noticed immediately and smiled, as if she had been expecting it all along. I knew you wouldn't disappear, she said proudly. Liam let out a small breath, almost a laugh, but softer. Yeah, he said. Looks like you were right. Maya didn't smile this time, but her expression had softened. Not completely, not enough to erase the years between them, but just enough to make space for something new. Let's sit, she said. They moved toward a row of seats near the window. Outside, planes rolled slowly across the runway, their engines humming low like distant thunder. Ella climbed onto a chair and immediately started talking again, filling the silence the adults didn't know how to handle. I told Mommy you were nice, she said, swinging her legs. She didn't believe me at first. Maya raised an eyebrow slightly. I didn't say that, she replied. You didn't say anything, Ella corrected. Liam smiled faintly. She's observant, he said. She gets that from me, Maya answered, her tone calm but edged with something that felt like quiet pride. Another pause. This one heavier. More aware. Liam leaned back slightly, his hands resting on his knees. He looked at Maya, really looked at her this time. Time had changed her. Not in a way that took anything away, but in a way that added depth. Strength. There were lines near her eyes now, the kind that come from responsibility, from long nights, from carrying more than one person should have to carry alone. And yet, she was still her. Still the woman he once thought he couldn't live without. Still the woman he walked away from. You look. He started, then stopped. Maya tilted her head slightly. What? She asked. He exhaled. Strong, he said finally. It wasn't the word he had originally thought of, but it was the right one. Maya held his gaze for a second longer than necessary. I had to be, she said simply. That was all. No explanation. No elaboration. But it said everything. Ella leaned forward suddenly. Mommy makes the best pancakes, she announced. Even when she's tired. Maya smiled faintly at that. Don't exaggerate, she said. I'm not, Ella insisted. Even when she forgets the sugar sometimes, they're still good. Liam chuckled softly. I'd like to try them someday, he said. The moment the words left his mouth, he realized what they sounded like. Not just a comment. An invitation. A possibility. Maya noticed too, of course she did. Her expression shifted again, more guarded this time. We'll see, she said. Not yes. Not no. Just distance. Ella didn't pick up on it. Do you cook? She asked Liam. Not really, he admitted. I'm better at ordering food. That's not cooking, she said seriously. I know, he replied, smiling. Maya watched the exchange quietly. There was something unsettling about how easily Ella had taken to him. Children didn't pretend. They didn't calculate. They felt something, and they acted on it. And for some reason, her daughter had decided that Liam belonged in her space. That thought alone made Maya uneasy. You shouldn't get used to this, she said suddenly. Liam looked at her. Used to what? This, she said, gesturing lightly between them. Who's talking like this? It's temporary. The word lingered. Temporary. Liam nodded slowly. I understand, he said, and he did. At least part of him did. But another part, the part that hadn't fully woken up until today, wasn't ready to accept that so easily. I'm not trying to force anything, he added. I just didn't expect to see you again. Maya looked out the window. Neither did I, she said. A plane lifted off in the distance, its roar filling the silence for a moment. Ella yawned softly, leaning back in her seat. I'm tired, she said. Maya immediately shifted her attention. Come here, she said gently. Ella moved closer, resting her head against her mother's side. Within minutes, her eyes began to close. Liam watched quietly. There was something deeply grounding about the scene. Something real. Something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Does she always fall asleep this fast? He asked softly. When she feels safe, Maya replied without looking at him. The words hung there. Unintentional maybe, but meaningful. Liam glanced at Ella again, then back at Maya. I'm glad she felt that today, he said. Maya finally looked at him. She doesn't trust easily, she said. That caught him off guard. She didn't seem that way, he replied. That's because when she does trust someone, Maya said quietly, she gives it fully. Liam didn't respond. He just nodded, because suddenly the weight of that trust felt heavier. More important, more fragile. I didn't know, he said after a moment. Maya frowned slightly. About what? About you, having a child, he said. Her expression hardened just a little. There's a lot you didn't know, she repeated. Liam accepted that. He didn't argue. I guess I lost the right to know a long time ago, he said. Maya didn't deny it. But she didn't confirm it either. Another silence. But this one wasn't as sharp, not as tense. Just quiet. I looked for you once, Liam said suddenly. Maya turned to him quickly. What? He nodded slightly. Not right away, he admitted, but later. When things started to settle, I tried. Maya's eyes narrowed. And? I couldn't find you, he said. You'd moved, changed numbers. It was like you disappeared. Maya let out a small, almost bitter laugh. That's funny, she said. Liam frowned. Why? Because that's exactly what you did, she replied. The words were calm, but they carried years of pain. Liam looked down. I know, he said quietly. Maya shook her head slightly. You don't, she said. You don't know what it felt like to be left like that. No explanation. No goodbye. Just gone. Liam swallowed hard. I thought I was doing the right thing, he said. For who? She asked. He hesitated. For my future, he admitted. Maya nodded slowly. Exactly. There was no anger in her voice now. Just clarity. And where did that get you? She asked. Liam didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at Ella, sleeping peacefully against her, then back at Maya. Here, he said. She held his gaze. And is that supposed to mean something? She asked. I don't know yet, he admitted. That honesty caught her off guard. For the first time, she didn't have a response ready. They sat there, the noise of the airport fading in and out around them, as if the world itself wasn't sure whether to interrupt this moment or leave it alone. Ella shifted slightly in her sleep, mumbling something under her breath. Maya adjusted her gently, brushing her hair back with a softness that didn't exist anywhere else in her demeanor. Liam noticed. Of course he did. That's new, he said quietly. Maya looked at him. What is? You, he replied. That softness, she almost smiled. People change, she said. Yeah, he agreed. They do. Another pause. But this one felt different, less like distance, more like space. And in that space, something was slowly beginning to grow. Not trust, not yet, but something close. Something that hadn't been there before. Something that neither of them was ready to name. Yet. The silence stretched between them. But it wasn't empty anymore. It carried weight now. Memories pressing against the surface, waiting for a moment to break through. Liam shifted slightly in his seat, his eyes drifting back to Ella. She was still asleep. Her small hand curled loosely against Maya's coat, completely unaware of the history sitting just inches away from her. "She looks like you," he said quietly. Maya didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked down at her daughter, brushing a curl away from her forehead with gentle fingers. "People say that," she replied. Liam studied Ella more closely now. The curve of her cheeks, the shape of her eyes. There was something familiar there. Something that tugged at him in a way he couldn't quite explain. "And her father?" he asked carefully. Maya's hand stilled for just a second. Then she continued smoothing Ella's hair like nothing had changed. "He's not around," she said simply. There was no bitterness in her tone. But there was something else, finality. Liam nodded slowly. "I'm sorry," he said. Maya glanced at him briefly. "Don't be," she replied. "Some people are meant to leave." The words were quiet, but they carried a deeper meaning. One that didn't just apply to Ella's father. Liam felt it. Of course he did. "I didn't mean to," he started. "I know." She cut in gently, but firmly. "You didn't mean to. That was always the problem." He looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Maya leaned back slightly, her eyes drifting toward the runway again. "You didn't mean to hurt me," she said. "You didn't mean to disappear. You didn't mean to break anything." She paused. "But you still did." The simplicity of it made it harder to argue, harder to defend. Liam let out a slow breath. "You're right," he said. Maya glanced at him, surprised by how quickly he agreed. "No excuses?" she asked. He shook his head. "What would be the point?" he replied. "It wouldn't change anything." That was new. Maya noticed. The old Liam would have explained, justified, turned it into something logical, something strategic. But this version of him, he just accepted it. And that made it harder to stay angry. "I used to think about that day a lot," she said suddenly. Liam's attention sharpened instantly. "What day?" She gave him a look. "You know which one." He did. Of course he did. The day he left. The day everything ended without a real ending. "I remember the rain," she continued softly. "It was pouring so hard I could barely see through it. And you were standing there, talking about opportunities, about growth, about how this was something you had to do." Liam closed his eyes briefly. The memory hit him with uncomfortable clarity. "You didn't ask me to come with you," she added. He opened his eyes again. "I thought," he started, "that I wouldn't want to," she finished for him. He hesitated. "Yes." Maya let out a small, hollow laugh. "You didn't even give me the chance to decide," she said. "I was trying to protect you," he replied. "From what?" she asked. "From a life that wasn't stable," he said. "From uncertainty. From waiting on something that might not work." Maya shook her head slowly. "That wasn't your decision to make," she said. "I know that now," he admitted. "And what changed?" she asked. He looked at her. "Time," he said. "Distance. Regret." Maya studied him carefully. "You regret it?" she asked. "Every day," he answered without hesitation. That she didn't expect, not like that. Not so quickly. Not so honestly. "Then why didn't you come back?" she asked. Liam's jaw tightened slightly. "I didn't think I could," he said. "Why not?" "Because by the time I realized what I'd lost," he said slowly, "I assumed you had already moved on." Maya looked away. "That would have been easier," she muttered. Liam caught that. "You didn't?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked down at Ella again, her expression softening. "I tried," she said finally. "I really did." He waited. "There was someone," she continued. "Not long after you left." Liam felt something tighten in his chest, but he stayed quiet. "I thought maybe that's what I needed," she said. "A fresh start. Someone who was actually there." "And?" he asked carefully. Maya exhaled slowly. And it wasn't real, she said. Not like what we had. Liam swallowed hard. That doesn't justify anything I did, he said. I know, she replied. Another pause. But it also doesn't erase what we had, she added quietly. That changed something. Not everything, but something. Liam leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees. I never stopped thinking about you, he said. Maya looked at him. That's a dangerous thing to say, she replied. Why? Because it sounds like something that should matter, she said. But it doesn't change the past. I'm not trying to change the past, he said. Then what are you trying to do? He hesitated. Then answered honestly. I don't know yet. Maya studied him again. Searching, testing. Trying to figure out if this was real, or just another version of the man who once walked away. Ella stirred slightly, shifting in her sleep. Maya instinctively adjusted her again, her hand resting protectively on her back. Liam noticed, and something clicked. A thought, a possibility, something that had been forming quietly in the back of his mind since the moment he met Ella. But he hadn't dared to say it, until now. How old is she? He asked. Maya's expression changed instantly, guarded, careful. 6, she replied. Liam nodded slowly. 6, he did the math, the timeline, the distance between then and now. His heart started beating a little faster. Maya, he said cautiously. She looked at him. And for a split second, something in her eyes told him she already knew what he was about to ask. Don't, she said quietly. But it was too late. The question was already there. Too heavy to ignore. No, Maya said firmly. The answer came too quickly, too sharply. Liam froze, Maya's grip on Ella tightened slightly, as if shielding her from something invisible. She's mine, Maya continued, her voice steady but firm. That's all you need to know. Liam didn't push. Not yet, but the doubt was there now, the possibility. And it wasn't going away. I'm not trying to, he started. I know what you're trying to do, she said, cutting him off again. And I'm telling you, it's not that. Her tone left no room for argument. But her eyes told a more complicated story. Liam leaned back slowly. Okay, he said. He didn't believe her. Not completely, but he respected the boundary. For now, the announcement overhead crackled again, calling passengers for boarding at nearby gates. Time was moving again, pulling them forward whether they were ready or not. Maya glanced at the screen. We should start getting ready, she said. Liam nodded. But neither of them moved immediately. Because something had changed. The past wasn't just a memory anymore. It was here. Alive, complicated, and unfinished. Maya reached for her bag, adjusting the strap over her shoulder with steady hands, but there was a slight tension in her movements now. The kind that only showed when something unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. Come on, sweetheart, she whispered softly, brushing Ella's cheek. Time to wake up. Ella stirred slowly, her eyes fluttering open as she blinked up at her mother. Are we flying now? She asked, her voice still heavy with sleep. Soon, Maya replied gently. We need to get ready. Ella nodded, then turned her head and saw Liam still sitting nearby. A smile spread across her face instantly. You're still here, she said. Liam smiled back, though his thoughts were far from simple now. Yeah, he said. I told you I wouldn't disappear. Ella sat up, rubbing her eyes. Good, she said. Because I don't like it when people leave without saying goodbye. The words were innocent, but they landed hard. Liam glanced at Maya, but she was already looking away. Let's gather your things, she said, her tone shifting slightly, more focused now. Ella slid off the chair and grabbed her pink backpack, hugging it tightly like it was something important. Liam stood as well, adjusting his coat. I'll walk you to the gate, he said. Maya hesitated. For just a second. Then she nodded. Okay. They moved together again, but the energy had changed. There was something heavier in the air now. Something unspoken but impossible to ignore. The question Liam had asked, and the answer Maya had given, it lingered between them like a shadow neither of them could fully step out of. Ella, however, continued walking happily between them, occasionally reaching for Liam's hand without thinking. And each time she did, Maya noticed. She didn't stop it, but she noticed. As they approached the boarding area, the crowd thickened again. Families, business travelers, couples, all moving toward their own destinations, unaware of the quiet storm unfolding in this small group. "Mummy, can he sit with us on the plane?" Ella asked suddenly. Maya exhaled slowly. "That's not how flights work, sweetheart," she said. "But what if there's space?" Ella insisted. "There won't be," Maya replied gently, but firmly. Liam crouched down beside Ella again. "Flights are a little complicated," he said. "Everyone has assigned seats." Ella frowned. "That's not fair." "Yeah," he said softly. "Sometimes it isn't." She looked at him for a moment, then nodded like she accepted it, even if she didn't like it. "Okay," she said. He stood again, meeting Maya's gaze briefly. There was something in her eyes now, not just caution, not just distance, something closer to conflict, internal, unresolved. They reached the gate. Boarding hadn't started yet, but the line was already forming. "This is where we say goodbye," Maya said quietly. The words felt heavier this time, more final. Ella looked up at Liam again. "Will I see you again?" she asked. Liam didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at Maya. She held his gaze, waiting, testing. He could lie, say yes, make it easy. But something told him that wouldn't be right. "I don't know," he said honestly. Ella's expression fell slightly. "But I hope so." That seemed to help. "Me too," she said. She stepped forward and hugged him again, tighter this time. Liam wrapped his arms around her gently, holding on for just a second longer than necessary. When she pulled away, she smiled. "Don't forget me," she said. "I won't," he replied. "Not a chance." Maya stepped forward then, her expression calm but guarded. "Thank you," she said again, "for everything." Lem nodded. "You don't have to keep thanking me," he said. "I do," she replied. "Because you stayed." There it was again. That word. Stayed. Liam looked at her carefully. "I'm trying to be different," he said. Maya's eyes flickered. "I can see that," she admitted. That was the closest thing to acknowledgement he was going to get. At least for now. Another announcement echoed through the terminal, calling their boarding group. "That's us," Maya said. She reached for Ella's hand. "Come on." Ella waved at Lime as they started to move. "Bye, Lime!" He lifted his hand in return. "Bye, Ella." They took a few steps. Then, Maya. She stopped, slowly turned back. Liam stepped forward. Closing the small distance between them, there was something he needed to say. Something he couldn't walk away without saying. "I meant what I said earlier," he said. "About what?" she asked. "About not knowing," he replied. "About everything." Maya held his gaze. "And what exactly are you asking, Liam?" she said. There was no anger in her voice. Just clarity. Directness. "I'm not asking anything," he said. "Then why does it feel like you are?" she replied. He hesitated. "Because she was right. I just don't want this to be the end," he admitted. Maya's expression softened just slightly. "That's not entirely up to you," she said. "I know," he replied. Silence. But not an empty one. This one felt like a decision waiting to happen. Ella tugged at Maya's hand. "Mummy, we have to go." Maya nodded, but her eyes stayed on Liam. For a moment longer than necessary, then she reached into her bag, pulled something out. A small piece of paper. She stepped closer and handed it to him. Liam looked down. A number. Her number. "I'm not promising anything," she said quietly. "Just don't disappear again." The words were simple, but they carried everything. Liam looked up at her. "I won't," he said. This time there was no hesitation, no doubt. She studied his face for a second, as if trying to decide whether to believe him. Then she nodded. "Good," she said. She turned and walked toward the boarding line, Ella skipping beside her. Liam stood there, watching them go, not moving, not thinking, just feeling. Something had shifted, not fully, not completely, but enough. Enough to change the direction of everything. For the first time in years, Liam wasn't thinking about his next deal, his next flight, his next achievement. He was thinking about a little girl with a pink backpack, and a woman he had once loved, and maybe still did. He looked down at the paper in his hand again. Then back up. They were almost out of sight now. But not gone. Not this time. And for once, he wasn't going to let them be. Liam stood there long after they disappeared into the boarding line, the small piece of paper still held between his fingers like it was something fragile, something that could vanish if he let his grip loosen even slightly. Around him, the airport continued moving like nothing had changed. People rushed past, announcements echoed, flights were called. But for him, everything had shifted. He looked down at the number again, then slowly folded it and slipped it into his wallet, not in the casual way someone saves a contact, but carefully, deliberately, like it mattered. Because it did. More than anything had in a long time. That night, Liam didn't sleep. He sat in his hotel room, the city lights flickering beyond the glass window, his phone resting on the table in front of him. He had opened her contact 3 times. Typed a message twice. Deleted it both times. What do you even say after years of silence? After everything? Hey, I saw you at the airport. Felt ridiculous. Can we talk? Felt too direct. I'm sorry. Felt too small. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. For a man who built empires with words, negotiations, and decisions, this felt impossible. Because this wasn't business. This was real. And real things didn't follow strategies. They didn't follow logic. They followed something else. Something he wasn't used to trusting. Finally, after what felt like hours, he picked up the phone again. Typed, paused. Then hit send before he could overthink it. I'm glad you're both safe. Simple, honest, no pressure, no expectations. He stared at the screen. Waiting. Minutes passed. Nothing. He set the phone down. Told himself it didn't matter. Told himself she might be busy. Told himself a lot of things. But none of them quieted the feeling in his chest. Then, the screen lit up. A message from her. His heart reacted before his mind could. He picked up the phone immediately. She fell asleep before the plane even took off. Liam exhaled slowly, a small smile forming without him realizing it. He typed back. That sounds like her. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, she doesn't usually trust strangers like that. Liam read the message twice. Then typed. I didn't feel like a stranger. A pause, longer this time. Then, she said the same thing. He leaned back slightly, his grip on the phone tightening just a little. Another message came through before he could respond. She asked if you'd message. That caught him off guard. He stared at the words, then smiled faintly. Guess I didn't want to disappoint her. This time, the reply came faster. She'll be glad. Silence followed. But it didn't feel awkward, it felt open, like something had been left unfinished, and now, slowly, it was being continued. Liam hesitated for a moment, then typed again. Can I see you when you get back? He almost didn't send it, almost deleted it, but he didn't. The message went through, and suddenly the waiting felt heavier, more uncertain. Minutes passed. Then 5. Then 10. He started to think maybe he had pushed too fast, too soon. Then, her reply came. We'll see. Not a yes, not a no, but not a rejection either, and somehow that was enough. The next few days felt different. Liam still went to meetings, still made decisions, still moved through his usual routine. But something had shifted beneath it all. He checked his phone more, not obsessively, but more than usual, waiting, not just for messages, but for something else, for a chance, for another moment like the one at the airport. And then, 3 days later, his phone buzzed again. A message from Maya, Rebecca. That was it. 2 words. But they carried more weight than any deal he had ever closed. He didn't wait this time. Are you free tomorrow? The reply came after a short pause. For coffee. Simple. Direct. And this time, it was a yes. The cafe was quiet. Not empty but calm. The kind of place where conversations didn't need to compete with noise. Liam arrived early. Of course he did. Some habits didn't change. But this time it wasn't about control. It was about anticipation. He chose a table near the window, his eyes occasionally drifting toward the door, and then she walked in. Maya. Alone. No Ella this time. She looked around briefly, then spotted him. Their eyes met. And for a moment, everything else faded again. Not like the airport. Not chaotic, not overwhelming, just still. She walked over slowly, her expression neutral but not cold. Hey, she said. Hey, he replied, standing up slightly before sitting again. She took the seat across from him. There was a brief silence. But it wasn't uncomfortable, just unfamiliar. You made it, he said. She raised an eyebrow slightly. You sound surprised. A little, he admitted. She leaned back slightly. I wasn't sure if I would, she said, honest. As always. Liam nodded. I'm glad you did. A server approached, breaking the moment. They ordered coffee. Simple. No distractions. When the server left. But this time, it didn't stay long. I almost didn't give you my number, Maya said. Liam looked at her. Why did you? He asked. She hesitated. Then answered. For her. Ella. Of course. Liam nodded slowly. She talks about you, Maya added. That surprised him. What does she say? Maya allowed a faint smile. That you're the man who didn't leave. The words hit him again. Deeper this time. Because now they weren't just coming from a child. They were coming from Maya. And that meant something. I'm trying not to be that man anymore, he said quietly. Maya studied him. You keep saying that, she replied. I mean it. I know, she said. And that was new. She believed him. At least a little. And for Liam, that was more valuable than anything else. Maya looked down at her coffee, turning the cup slowly between her hands. I believe that you mean it, she said. But meaning something and living it are not the same. Liam nodded. I know. She looked up at him then, really looked at him. I don't need big words, Liam. I don't need promises that sound beautiful. I have heard enough beautiful promises in my life. What I need is consistency, quiet effort, someone who shows up even when it is not exciting. He leaned forward slightly. Then let me show up. Maya was silent for a while. Outside the cafe window, people moved along the sidewalk, carrying bags, coffees, small pieces of ordinary life. Liam watched her, but he didn't push. For once, he understood that silence didn't always need to be filled. Finally, she said, Ella has a school play next Friday. His heart lifted before he could hide it. She does. Maya nodded. She is a tree. Liam blinked. A tree. A very proud tree, Maya said, and this time she smiled too. She has one line, and she has practiced it like she is performing on Broadway. What's the line? Maya's smile widened. I give shade to everyone. Liam laughed softly and the sound felt warm between them. I'd like to come, he said. Maya held his gaze. I know. And would that be okay? She took a slow breath. I think she would like that. He understood what she was really saying. Not yet for me. But for her. And that was enough. The following Friday, Liam arrived at the school auditorium 20 minutes early, holding a small bouquet of yellow flowers. Not roses. Not anything romantic. Just something bright and cheerful for a 6-year-old tree. When Ella spotted him from behind the curtain, her face lit up so brightly that Liam felt something inside him loosen. He waved. She waved back with both hands until her teacher gently pulled her away. Maya sat beside him, quiet at first. But when the lights dimmed and the children began their little play, her shoulder relaxed beside his. Ella stepped forward in her brown paper costume and leafy green crown. Her voice trembled at first, but then she found Liam and Maya in the audience. I give shade to everyone, she said proudly. The audience clapped. Liam clapped harder than anyone. Ella beamed. After the play, she ran straight into his arms. You came. She hugged him tight. Maya watched them, and for the first time, the fear in her eyes did not win. Something softer stood beside it. Trust. Not full, not easy, but growing. Weeks passed. Liam came for small things, school pickups, Saturday pancakes, a broken shelf, a rainy afternoon movie. He did not arrive with grand speeches. He arrived with time, with patience, with a steady heart, and slowly Maya stopped waiting for him to disappear. One evening, as Ella slept on the couch after a movie, Maya stood beside Liam near the window. You stayed, she whispered. He turned to her. I told you I would. I know, she said. But this time, I believe you. Liam's eyes softened. I love you, Maya. She closed her eyes for a second, not because the words hurt, but because they healed something old. Then she opened them. I love you too, she said quietly. But this time, we do it right. He smiled. This time we do it right. Behind them, Ella stirred in her sleep and mumbled, no disappearing. They both laughed softly. Liam looked at Maya, then at the little girl who had found him in an airport when he thought he was the one helping her. But the truth was clear now. Ella had not just been lost that day, she had found him. She had found the part of him he had buried under money, ambition, and lonely hotel rooms. She had led him back to the woman he never stopped loving. She had opened a door he thought life had closed forever. Months later, on a bright Sunday morning, the three of them walked through the airport again. This time, no one was lost. Ella held Maya's hand with one hand and Liam's with the other, swinging between them like the world was finally balanced. At gate B7, she suddenly stopped. "This is where I found you," she said to Liam. He smiled down at her. "I think this is where you saved me." Ella frowned thoughtfully. "But I was the lost one." Liam looked at Maya, then back at Ella. "Sometimes lost people find each other." Maya squeezed his hand. Ella thought about that, then nodded like it made perfect sense. "Good," she said. "'Cause I'm not letting go this time." And she didn't. Not through the gate. Not onto the plane. Not when she rested her sleepy head against Liam's arm halfway through the flight. Maya watched them, her eyes shining quietly. Years ago, Liam had walked away chasing a future that looked powerful from the outside, but felt empty from within. Now, sitting between the woman he loved and the child who had trusted him before he deserved it, he finally understood. Success was not the loudest room. It was not the biggest deal. It was not a name printed in magazines. It was a small hand holding yours. A second chance earned slowly. A home choosing you back. And when Ella woke up and whispered, "Are we there yet?" Liam smiled. "Yes," he said softly. Maya leaned her head against his shoulder, and for the first time in his life, Liam knew the answer meant more than one thing. They were there. They were home.